Hey, Tim Vandersloot here. So I'm working on another gourd project, and what I wanted to do was paint the inside black to help offset everything and really make the carving itself stand out. So what I ended up doing was fixing it so that the color did not bleed into the gourd or get absorbed by the gourd, or say wood turning. If that wood absorbs that color and you're carving it really thin, it could show up and bleed to the surface of the carving, which will detract from the carving itself. So this is one method that I've used to help eliminate that problem in adding color to either the inside or the outside of a gourd, and then being able to carve it thin and not have any of that color bleed up. All right, so that's what's next. Alright, so when I first set out to do gourd carvings, just to try it out and see if I liked it, I just grabbed a gourd and went to town. Alright, this is the result of that project. Alright, it is completely just freehand. I didn't have anything in particular in mind. The result was pretty cool. I think it came out quite nice, but the goal here was to push it and see how stable a gourd is, how far I can push it. Can I create really thin detail? What can be done with a gourd? And just to gain some experience and some ideas about what the possibilities for the future would be. All right, so I've started another gourd here, and I took some things that I learned from the very first gourd that I did and have applied it here, and I want to show you the difference. Now, this really comes into play if you are going to paint the inside of the gourd. All right. Now, there's a lot of times where you want it to stand up, and you get in the lighting, and the black just kind of silhouettes. All right, so you really have the ability to focus on the carving. On occasion, you might want to leave this natural, or if you're carving the inside, or whatever the case may be. Okay, this pertains specifically to wanting to paint the inside of a gourd, whether it's black or any other color, and carve really thin. Okay, so as you can see, I've carved this really thin. It started out just as thick as this gourd. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick. And as you can see, I removed a lot of material to get to the final carving. Now, as it pertains to painting the inside of the gourd, this was, I'd say an afterthought. After all the carving and everything was done, I decided, hey, I want to come back in and I want to paint the inside of the gourd black, like I've seen other gourd artists do. All right. Now, when I came back and I did that, I was just, going by the seat of my pants, and I just grabbed the black paint and I applied the paint to the inside of the gourd. Now, if any of you have worked with gourds that you've seen it really absorb with the paint or the ink or the dye on the inside, or if you've removed the top surface and applied it, you know that the gourds are very absorbent and they really soak in the color, especially color. Now, if you're leaving things thick, all right, if you're just carving a light etching or something like that and you're leaving it thick, this is not going to matter one bit to you. All right, but if you go really thin and you want to get really fine detail like this, then there's something you really got to watch for. If you go ahead and just simply apply the paint, the black in this case, okay? Apply the black to this. Let me zoom in. I want to show you some areas that really, I think, unfortunately detract from the overall piece, and I'm going to show you this. This stays in my collection, by the way. This is my very first gourd carving, and so that just kind of stays with me. All right, but let me get in here and let it focus. What you will notice, let me grab something here. What you'll notice, say this dark area, okay, that's the black coming through because it's really thin right here. Okay, over here, because it is so thin, you can actually see the black, all right? And I would have to go in and remove more material, and it would just become more noticeable, okay? As I come around here, here's another area. Get in focus. Here's another area. And as I go around the gourd, everywhere that was really, really thin, that gourd absorbed the black paint and sucked it right in. And unfortunately, it bled through the surface, or close to the surface, of the gourd. All right. Now, that, in this case, you know, being my own personal gourd, it was a learning experience. And this is what I'm going to pass on to you. In fact, you can see there's just a very noticeable if you're really paying attention and looking at it, all right? This dark spot, that's not the gourd, that's the paint bleeding up through. So I want to show you the difference between just what I did with this very first gourd and the effect that it had on the gourd itself, and what I've done subsequently in this gourd, let's say, all right, that has solved that problem of bleeding. Now, I knew in my planning that I was definitely going to go ahead and paint the inside of this gourd black. All right, that was what I wanted to do. I knew it up front. It wasn't an afterthought, so I knew that I was going to come in and do this. Learning from past experience, I decided the best way to go about doing this is to seal the inside of this gourd first. So I took clear coat, just a cheap, inexpensive rattle can clear, all right, and I applied a really good heavy coat to the inside of this gourd, all right. Now, it was a very, very wet coat. The very first coat was a very wet coat. Now, the reason behind that was so that the gourd could really absorb a lot of that material, that clear, and get into the pores, and as it cured, it would harden up. So it was so wet that I had to, you know, turn it and move it and roll it and do a bunch of stuff to it. But needless to say, that first coat was wet, and then I applied two additional coats of clear to help seal the surface that were not as wet, okay, just to help fill in the little gaps and even things out. Once that was all cured, and I let it sit for a few days, so it was really good and cured, all right, the smell, the odor of the clear coat, the elements in the clear had evaporated, and the smell had gone down. And then I went in and I painted the black. Now, I'm not going to tell you, you know, how you should paint the black. Just get the black in there, the color that you want to use. And once that's dry, you can come back and apply a coat of clear over the surface of the black or the other, or whatever paint you're using, color you're using, to seal that in. And then it's not going to rub off, it's not going to smudge, it's not going to go anywhere. All right, now, let me show you the effect of doing this. And so I'll zoom in here so you can really see what's going on. All right, the clear coat, you don't see anything going on. All right, it's very much, you know, invisible, basically, okay, to what our purposes are here. All right, so you don't see the clear, and then you see the black, and the black sits right on the surface. It did not bleed into the gourd like you see here. All right, this, you can see it bleeding up. It's affecting the color. And so I can go super, super thin now with my carving, however thin I want to, and the black is on the very inside edge of the gourd, and it did not absorb. So I have the full thickness of material here that I can work with. All right, so that is a long-winded tip, let's say, on how to get the color applied without it absorbing into the gourd itself. All right, so you have a surface preparation and all your colors stay on the surface. Now, the same principle applies, even though I don't use inks and dyes. If you want to do something similar with paint, say transparent paints, do light washes or anything like that on the outside of the gourd, all right, the same principle applies here. If you seal it first, and then apply your light washes and stains over the top of it, you will see the colors of the gourds come through, and you will also get the effect of the washes and everything, and you'll have more control over the final outlook because the paint is not going to be absorbed into the gourd and be affected by the natural patina and changes that the gourd itself have. So with that, be safe, have fun, and enjoy all your power carving experiences. We'll talk to you soon.